Hi, this is Alex Gonçalves of Tukiscout.com, and this is the Seleção podcast.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários. Simão a tentar oferecer o gol a Figo e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa já acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai para Cristiano Ronaldo, mete, bateu, golo! Ronaldo! Obrigado, Cristiano! Portugal vai Éder, chuta! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 56 of the Seleção podcast. I, of course, am your host, Danny Pinto. We are a proud partner of Portugal.net, and the time has come to discuss all things Seleção and all things do or die, because this is the situation that the national team currently finds itself as. We have finally reached playoff week, for a lack of a better term, as the Seleção is trying to make the World Cup in Qatar at the end of 2022 via the playoff. They have a match against Turkey, the semifinal of their group against Turkey on Thursday at the Dragão. And if Portugal is fortunate enough to win, they would then take on the winner of Italy/North Macedonia on the 29th, also at Dragão. But first things first, we got to get past Thursday to get to the 29th, and to help us break it down from the Seleção side is Alex Gonçalves of Tukiscout.com. Alex is nice enough to join us and give his thoughts on this roster, what Fernando Santos may or may not be thinking, and we'll also talk nuclear options. Wow, that's an awful word to say in the times that we're dealing with. I do apologize.
Timing, yeah.
Do apologize for that. But what could happen if everything ends either this coming Thursday or on the 29th in a negative way, and this team does not make the World Cup? But first off, Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's good to be able to talk about the Seleção again. As you say, this do or die crucial moment. It's quite exciting in a way, you know. Portugal like to do it the hard way, so it wouldn't be the Seleção without this added pressure, I guess.
It's never been this hard, though, Alex. I mean, I think the reason why I find it so do or die and so dire, for lack of a better term, is just, and I guess we'll go right into the real negative of all this, is the ramifications of not making the World Cup. Fernando Santos is still this national team's manager, to the chagrin of many, many people, myself included. But if this team does not make it to Qatar at the end of November and participate in this World Cup, I just have not a terrible feeling, but I just have it's just an unknown, considering some of the contributors to this team for the better part of a decade. Like, what happens to them? Are we going to see the swan song of a Pep, a João Moutinho, a José Fonte? Of course, the biggest one is Cristiano Ronaldo. But I guess, like, from your perspective, as we'll go with the fan part of you. What's the perspective of the fan that Alex Gonçalves is of this national team? What are your kind of thoughts heading into these, hopefully, two important games at the very least?
Well, I mean, what I would say is that in terms of personnel, this is still an incredibly strong Seleção. It's a very strong team. We know the absentees, and there's maybe more to come. We're missing some crucial players. In terms of the team itself, it's more than good enough, to have already qualified. Is it good enough to get through Turkey and Italy? Yes. On paper, I would say that in that bracket of North Macedonia, Italy, Turkey, Portugal's team is the strongest. maybe that's the fan part that's speaking a bit too highly of Portugal. But when you look at the team on paper, it's quite remarkable. Still, the strength and depth, even with the injuries that we've had, we're missing some crucial players. Of course, Renato Sanches is going to be huge. Juan Cancelo for the first game, massive. Ruben Dias at the back. Nelson Semedo's been fantastic for Wolves at right back. So we're missing 2 key right backs against Turkey, and still we've got 3 in the squad, and they're all very competent right backs. So the fan part of me, of course, is nervous. Also excited. This is the kind of matches we support, we enjoy about football. Nervous but excited and optimistic. That's the fan side.
Yeah, the optimism. I guess you have to be optimistic in a situation like this. I guess the expecting the negative is a very Portuguese kind of outlook in most everything, not only in football. But you still have a chance to make the World Cup. You have a team that is, as you mentioned, good enough on the field and on paper to make it to Qatar at the end of this year. But we've also just seen what again. I go to what could happen, and there's obviously ramifications of what could happen if they don't make the World Cup. Obviously, number one, it would be the likelihood that Fernando Santos is gone. And I just the unknown of what happens with this national team, and also not even that, but just then knowing there's going to be a World Cup without Portugal if this does not go our way is just it could be such a kick in the gut to such passionate fans that this Portuguese national team has, and we have to go in optimistic, we have to go in with the hope, but we've been optimistic of a change for a while, and we're just kind of trying to figure out when is enough, and I guess that answer is if we do or we don't make the World Cup. So pins and needles for sure, Alex. Absolutely.
Do or die, as you said. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely do or die. Let's go over the roster here that Fernando Santos announced on St. Patrick's Day, March the 17th. And first, we'll go over the roster, but let's kind of graze and you mentioned some of the names already, graze the guys that are not in. Ruben Dias suffered an injury. He's going to be out. He's now been out for about a week of the 3 to 4 weeks that he is expected to be out. Nelson Smith, as you mentioned, was playing very well at Wolves. He's not an option at right back this go around. Fernando Santos, who was already going to be out of the Turkey match because of a yellow card accumulation during qualifying group stage, he has suffered an injury. I think it was a hamstring. He's out 2 to 3 weeks. Ruben Neves, who has been playing so well for Wolves, I would say, especially in calendar year 2022, he was actually a player that I was actually looking forward to see if he may not even get a start and be part of the starting 11 coming up against Turkey, just because of how well he's been playing. He falls on his knee awkwardly. They don't have any official announcement yet in terms of if he's going to be available for the Seleção or not. And then players who weren't chosen. José Sá was a very big surprise for me. And I'm not saying that he should have been. I'm saying he should have been picked, but I'm not. He very well could have still been playing behind Rui Patricio, but not to have him as an option was surprising. Vitina gets called up to the under 21s. I thought he should have been called up to the senior squad. And then a guy who had been pretty much been a stalwart in the midfield since the Euros, João Palhinha, has been out of. I don't want to say out of favor, but just not in the best situation right now with Sporting. He had been suspended, and then he was not in much of the matches in, I would say, the better part of this month. You have Pot, who hasn't been playing well and has been injured as well. I'm rambling here, Alex. I'm just trying to let's just get your thoughts on who made it, who didn't make it, and who you thought was the most curious, either choice or non-choice.
I mean, I think you summarized it really well there. Of course, José Sá it was a real shock because he's been arguably the best goalkeeper in England this season. And therefore, by that definition, he's been one of the best in the world. So the fact he's not even one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the Portugal roster is a big surprise. Saying that, it's not going to make a huge difference. I think Rui Patricio would have started anyway. I don't think we can have too many. Yeah, I don't think we can have too many issues with that either. It's a high pressure situation. Jose Saz never played for the senior team. It's like throwing him into that environment. He's a very experienced goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong, but it's that's a tough way to make your debut. And the other 2 goalkeepers, let's not forget, they're top quality goalkeepers as well. They're playing for big clubs in Europe. They were all at the time of the announcement of the squad. They were all playing in European competition still. So I guess it's not going to determine whether Portugal go through or not. It's just a bit of a surprise, and it's a shame for him because he's going to be thinking, what more do I have to do to get called up? So it sets that kind of precedent, I guess. And Vitina was the big one. I actually attempted to predict the squad that Fernando Santos would choose before the announcement, and I didn't include him. I didn't include Vitina because I did have a feeling Fernando Santos would overlook him. That doesn't make it any less controversial and shocking that he actually did leave him out.
Sure.
Because this guy has been probably the best player in Portugal this season. Player of the month 2 months in a row. And what is just strange generally is that, you've included Otavio there. And these are 2 players that play for the same team. They're both very good players, but Vitina has been the superior player this season. So it's just odd, really, that you would choose Otavio over Vitina. That's just. And I saw a nice headline about it, and it was like, this was the easiest golazo that Fernando Santos could score, taking Vitina, and he decided he didn't want to score it, which kind of sums it up because this was a controversial thing that didn't need to be controversial at all. If he just chose him and didn't play him, it would be, well, at least he's there, and no one would question it. Really, the fact he's not there at all is crazy. I would just say there's 2 other things I would point out with the squad, which is the first one, the inclusion of Cedric Soares, which I have to say I fully agree with. But I know that there are many that disagreed. They thought Ricardo Pereira should have been the one chosen instead. The only thing I would say is that Ricardo Pereira's had his fitness concerns this season. He's not that long back from injury. You don't know if he's at his full, sharpness. So Cedric Soares has been really good for Arsenal, filling in for Tomiyasu this season. So I have complete faith in him. We know how reliable he is. He's good at both ends of the pitch. So I have no problems with that. But I thought it was worth mentioning because I know some people were questioning that one. And the final one that I just thought was, it's not controversial. It's just I would have tried everything to try and fit him into the team is Rafa Silva. Because I wouldn't say he's having an amazing season. He's having a good season. He's crucial to Benfica, but he just offers something so different to the other forwards. There are skillful and tricky wingers there, but Rafa's just got that extra pace, and we saw it today actually in the match for Benfica. His goal that he scored, from his own half, dribbled through with the pace. They couldn't keep up, and he slotted it home. So I just feel like when you're chasing a game in the last 10 to 15 minutes, Rafa Silva is the guy you want to have off the bench to bring on to make that impact. So that's just the other one that I feel hopefully won't, determine whether Portugal go through. It would have been nice to have him in the squad.
Yeah, for those of you watching on YouTube, Alex is a professional because for the last 30 seconds, I've almost broken my microphone 3 times trying to adjust it. So I apologize for that, Alex. But yeah, I would say, I first of all, spot on your analysis there. For me, I think the area with the least amount of controversy is up front in terms of the attack because as I'll go ahead and put the roster here on the ticker as well. Obviously Ronaldo is going to be a surefire pick no matter what, but you have João Felix, who is definitely in form right now with Atletico Madrid. Diogo Jota is cementing himself as a contributor for Liverpool in their hopes of trying to catch City in the Premier League. And then you have I would say I don't want to say a comeback of sorts for Gonçalves, but he has been playing much better of late and has been scoring big goals for his club. Andre Silva again getting on the score sheet recently for his club as well in Germany, and I think up front it's strong. Now it's how you use them from the midfield up with guys like Bernard Silva and guys like Bruno Fernandes, where you can try to hopefully get something in terms of a cohesive attack from the midfield to those forwards. But yeah, got to have balance, got to have it there. But for me, I think the biggest concern right now is obviously the middle of the defense at center back. It seems like we are in a time warp where we have old options once again at the center back position, where Pep has had once you get to his age in the game of football, little nicks here and there become more and more frequent. And I know he had something a couple of weeks ago. He did play the full 90 as we record this on Sunday afternoon. He played the whole 90 in Porto's game today. José Fonte has been again solid for Lille this season. He's never been anything other than solid, other than just getting older, and that's been the bugaboo on him for so long. And you do get an injection of youth with Gonçalo Inácio from Sporting. Those are the three center backs that Fernando Santos has chosen. You do have the option of playing Danilo Pereira in the middle there if you so choose. He hasn't played much center back for PSG this year, but I think that's the concern for me. And also, I know that João Cancelo is out for Turkey, but I thought that having three right backs was a bit of a curious decision, simply because if you only have two, and João Cancelo is one of them, and either Cedric or Diogo Dalot get injured in that Turkey game, well, then you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I just thought that there was an opportunity there to, maybe add some attacking, especially somebody like Vitina in the middle that you can bring off the bench for the Seleção. But I think it's more of, as much as we want Fernando Santos to change the way he approaches the game, I think in this selection period for this international break and this World Cup playoff, injuries I think kind of hampered him in what he maybe was trying to maybe do something different for these playoffs.
Completely agree. I would agree completely with the suggestion that centre back's the weakest point, or the position that we probably have most concern with. What I would say is I don't disagree with the players he's called up. I would have called up the same players. I think they're probably the three best options right now available. And on the age thing, I mean, it's a concern because you can pick up the injuries more frequently. But these guys are like still at the top level in terms of fitness and athletic ability. I mean, we've got to remember the centre backs that Italy played in the final in Euro 2020, I should say, not 2016, definitely not. They were
old centre backs in 2016 as well.
And 2016 as well. That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a theme there that the old centre backs are the way to go if you want to be successful in tournaments. I mean, I would have no problems with José Fonte and Pep partnering each other in the heart of defence over these one or two games if we get through it. The experience is invaluable, I think. So, I mean, in terms of the starting two, I've got no problems. It's kind of comical. I saw that some people were suggesting we could start the exact same back five with the goalkeeper and the four defenders as we did in Euro 2016's final.
I saw that too. It's pretty
quite
great.
Extraordinary. Yeah, I mean, 6 years on and it's the same. But listen, I think it's going to be close to that. I think that is close to the best back line that we have available right now, with the suspensions, with the injuries that we have. It's a concern, I agree, but I think I can't criticize Fernando Santos' choices in terms of the centre-back choices he made,
Well, let's go ahead and criticize Fernando Santos, not for that specifically, but I've in preparing for the interview and stuff, I couldn't find anything, and again, the game in November is so many tweets ago that I just kind of want to get your opinion as we sit here. Well, let me get your opinion of what you felt after the Serbia match where Portugal lost 2-1 and then put themselves in the position to be in the playoff. What has been your stance on Fernando Santos, and should he be managing this playoff in your opinion?
Yeah, that Serbia match. It was a while ago, but it's still there in the memory quite strongly because it was so atrocious. I don't know if it was the plan to just sit back and try and grind out a 1-0 win or even a draw because we knew that would be a suitable result. It was a
Alex,
bizarre.
you do know who the manager is, right?
Even
So
by
it probably was the plan.
Even by his standards, it was bizarre. I mean, to be fair, we've seen some really interesting games with Fernando Santos in charge. I think we forget that as well. Like, I remember we played Serbia before. We won 4-2, I think it was, in the previous qualifiers for, it must have been World Cup 2020 or World Cup 2018, yeah, or the Euros 2020. I think that's the right, yeah. And it was a great game. And there's been many games where Portugal have looked really good going forward. It was a while ago now, and that's the problem. It's been stale for too long. But we have seen evidence in the past that with Fernando Santos at the helm, Portugal don't have to be the ugly ducklings. He showed it after Euro 2016 when he started bringing. I mean, that Euro 2016 squad was limited. I still think it was a great team, but it was limited. And Fernando Santos played a blinder, I think, in the way that he approached that tournament with what he had, with an aging team as well. Then he was bringing through these excellent players. Bernardo Silva was coming in, João Cancelo was coming in. You know, you had these amazing players being added to the fold, and the quality of football improved. It did improve. In the big moments, it hasn't. That's the problem. In the big tournaments, he seems to shy away from the fluid football that has made Portugal both entertaining and successful in qualifying matches. And I don't know what it is, but this last qualifying round, you know, in a relatively straightforward group, with all respect to Luxembourg and Ireland, it wasn't an overly complicated group, but Portugal somehow just made it really complicated, even against
Sure.
Luxembourg, who I have great respect for. Luxembourg, I think they're improving a lot as a nation, but it's still Luxembourg. They're going to have limited resources and a limited national pool. Just overcomplicated it so much with this style of football. So the criticism is absolutely warranted. Should he be in charge for the playoffs? I will probably be in the minority when I say probably. I think that it's a very difficult moment to change the manager. I mean, imagine if you change manager, you bring in, let's say, Paulo Fonseca, who would be probably the dream choice for many, I would say. And then Portugal don't qualify under this new manager.
Sure.
It's a very tricky starting post, you know, to fail to qualify for the first major tournament of this century is a big, you know, that's an uphill battle straight away. I mean, so obviously that's looking at it from what if we fail? You know, that's the angle. What if we fail rather than what if we succeed? I think the other thing is with Fernando Santos, we know that he has what it takes to get through playoffs. He did it with Greece. He got Greece through. I mean, it's still sensational what he did with that Greek team, to be honest. And he got them through the playoffs into the, I think it was the World Cup, maybe the Euros. So he's already got experience with this, and it's a big decision. I don't know if there's a right answer. I guess the right answer we'll know when we find out if we've qualified or if we haven't. So it's not very helpful, but I think that's the only way we'll know if it's the right decision.
Well, I'm just we're just throwing it out there because of you know, I think it's a great point that you bring up, and it's something that, you know, I've talked with Tom Cundert about and others, is the emotional part of it is you get rid of the guy who put you in this situation in the first place. And again, you cannot put 100% blame on Fernando Santos, but as I've said before, and I've told other people this, and you've seen it in sports everywhere. It's much easier to replace one manager than it is to replace 6, 7, 8 guys on your roster. It's just it's the logistics of the business. With that said, if there was, I guess it's if it was a successful change where this new manager, whoever it would have been, would win these 2 matches and get them to the World Cup, he is on a high of highs as a
Very true.
savior of this generation. Whereas if he was, and if there would have been a replacement for this playoff, I think there would have been, if they didn't make it, it would have been a bummer, obviously, for him, whoever it would have been. But I don't think they would have. He wouldn't get too much blame for it because
I agree.
he's going to be put
true.
in a tough situation anyway. I
Yes.
want to go over a poll that I ran, and which is still live, by the way, on my Twitter account at selecaopod on Twitter. I asked Seleção fans, and if you weren't a Seleção fan and you voted, by all means, it's okay. But I asked two very simple questions that are just unbearable to answer for some people, but they did. Would you rather Portugal make the World Cup if it meant keeping Fernando Santos, or would you rather Portugal miss the World Cup, which would then ensue with Fernando Santos firing? And 72% of those who voted to make the World Cup. If Fernando Santos is there and they make the World Cup, fine, all for it. 28% would rather miss the World Cup to see Fernando Santos get fired. Now, I am a detractor of Fernando Santos and have become a very vocal detractor of Fernando Santos in the last few months, pretty much since the Euros, Euro 2020. But I would much rather have a chance to win the World Cup by being in the World Cup than not being in the World Cup at all. What are your thoughts on those 28%?
That poll is shocking to me. 28% of people have forgotten the whole point of what we're trying to achieve, as what we're here to support football for. No, I mean, of course, it's a reasonable opinion. I guess they're looking more long term. They fear they must be super concerned that Fernando Santos will stay on beyond the World Cup and into the next Euros as well, and they must be very concerned that it's going to be an absolute disaster. I'm still baffled that 28% of people would rather not qualify for the World Cup. Because ultimately, what's the reason they want to get rid of Fernando Santos? Is because they're concerned that we're not going to be successful. But if we don't qualify for the World Cup, then we haven't been successful. So why would you want us to not qualify for the World Cup? So yeah, that's a strange one. But for sure, of course, qualify for the World Cup. I think this is very probably his last tournament anyway as manager. So I think those people don't need to be overly concerned that he's going to be staying, long term. So yeah, an easy answer for me. Surely, World Cup every time.
Yeah, absolutely, World Cup every time. But it's. I kind of wanted to get the idea, and you see the poll here if you're watching on YouTube here. The poll is still running. Got 3 days left. Make your voice heard if you haven't voted already. But yeah, 71.9%. Taking an appearance in the World Cup again if it meant Fernando Santos had to stay. And then this number here is I don't know if it's I don't know if I was expecting more, to be honest, just because he has been such a volatile subject in terms
Divisive.
of absolutely, very divisive. But it was interesting to see get people's thoughts on that. But we're talking with Alex. Go ahead.
I do wonder. Sorry, I just wonder how many people are answering that with the emotion, in the desperation. I think if they really asked themselves, of course they would rather qualify for the World Cup. Surely. I just
we'll have to ask that 28.1% at some point.
I'd love to.
We're talking with Alex Gonçalves here of tugascout.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at ALJEEVES. And also follow Tugascout at TugaScoutPT. He's kind enough to help preview our do or die situation here with the Seleção. I'm going to give you what I have been told is a hot take, and what I have been also met with a bit of resistance in terms of my opinion. I feel that if Portugal do not make the World Cup, I feel that Ronaldo will retire from international football because I don't see him getting up for Nations League games this summer, and I just don't see him unless he takes time off and comes back for European qualifiers that begin in the calendar year 2023. I just don't see him coming back because the World Cup is it's the missing piece for him. And I'm not saying that, if they make the World Cup, Portugal's going to win it because that's crazy. But I don't see him sticking around for 2026. And if he's not sticking around for 2026, I'm not sure what else he can really accomplish other than just extending his goal record. So I am of the opinion, and I haven't heard anyone else say it, so I'm not trying to be like, oh, if it happens, like, look, I said it first, but I'm just trying to get into the mind of someone who is so competitive and is driven by excellence and by being the best, to not having an opportunity to solidify that in a World Cup tournament. I just have a tough time seeing him as his best competitive self if it's not towards going for a World Cup this year. Your thoughts, Alex? I've stumped you.
No, I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible for sure. I don't think it would be something that he would do immediately. I don't think like after the match, post match, he'd be like, yes, and this was my last game. I think he'd probably take some time to think about it. I would imagine. You don't want to make these decisions in emotion, and he will have been in these very low moments, very high moments before. He knows how to handle them. He knows it needs time to reflect. So I would like to think he'd give it at least a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, to just think about it rather than do it straight afterwards. But I think you're absolutely right. This is the one thing that's missing in his trophy cabinet, really. And if it's not this year, I can't see him being around in 4 years' time. I mean, you never know with Ronaldo. You never know.
Yeah.
In 4 years' time, he could be still going strong for Sporting, maybe, and gets called up. And we've seen it with Zlatan as well. But with Zlatan as well, he came back from retirement with Sweden. I don't know if he actually managed to make the tournament in the end, but it happens. I mean, what I will say is that I have a lot of respect for, and it seems to be in Portugal particularly, most players don't seem to retire. They seem to just they're always available. For as long as they're playing for their club, they're available. If they're not good enough, they're not called up. I don't remember Bruno Alves ever saying, I've retired. He's never going to be called up again. Right. But he's there. Sure. He's available. If Portugal need him, he's there. I have a lot of respect for players that don't want the big, goodbye. Ronaldo deserves it. He's an exception. But generally, I just thought it was worth noting that generally it's quite nice to see a lot of Portuguese players. They don't retire. They're always there, even if they know they're not good enough. And with Ronaldo retiring, all I would say is, listen, Ronaldo, you've got the 200 cap mark. You can become the first player to get 200 caps for your country, which has never been done in the men's game. That is a huge deal, to set that record. That's going to be almost untouchable, you would have thought. So I'd like to see him realize there are many other records to extend and to break, even if the World Cup does elude him, which he probably always expected anyway. I mean, my question to you would be, if Portugal go to the World Cup and get knocked out in the round of 16, does he retire as well? You think he retires then?
I think he would at least say, you know what, that was my last shot. Or a realistic shot, I guess. The funny thing is, and actually, Alex, we have a bit of breaking news on this podcast. Let me get to the breaking news first, and maybe breaking news. It's a podcast. By the time you guys hear it, you guys will already have heard it. But let me just finish the Ronaldo point, and I'll get to the breaking news. With Ronaldo, he's just. It's what is it? Someone once said that you don't know the good times when you're in them, and then when the good times are gone, you wish you knew they were the good times. I probably butchered that saying like a million different ways,
but I get it.
But it's if he doesn't get the opportunity to maybe know it's his last shot, I think that's the part that is probably eating at him the most. Is he didn't think that 2018 was going to be his last shot. He probably thought 2022 was going to be his likely last shot, but I think it's a much easier decision to make it after a World Cup than after not qualifying for that World Cup. Quickly, the breaking news is Ruben Neves is out, and if you're looking at the scroll right now, Vitinha has been called up from the under-21 side, and he is going to be in for Fernando Santos at his disposal. Now, I don't want to get too excited because this is one. It's at the behest of Ruben Neves not making it, and obviously that knee injury must have been something just that it wasn't gonna right itself in about a week or so. But I don't want to get too excited simply because we've seen an in-form young player be called up to a national team in a big competition and not see 1 minute, and that was Pot during the Euros. So while I'm excited that Vitinha is finally chosen and that's also a decision that Fernando Santos and Rui Jorge definitely had to talk on that one. But what are your thoughts of Vitinha replacing Ruben Neves, and I guess in not so much his impact, but what could his potential inclusion in a on the field for the Seleção give to this squad?
Well, I mean, it's amazing that he's included. I would say it's already too late. He's correcting what was an obvious decision. So it's not a good look still. He was left out ultimately. He was left out, and he's only in there because there was an injury. So the damage was done then. It doesn't suggest he's going to play particularly.
No.
If he wasn't in his 25-man squad, then he's being called up to make up the numbers. Essentially, I can't imagine he's now going to play a vital role in these matches or in this match because clearly he wasn't in Fernando Santos' plans. That said, it's good that he's there. Get him integrated as soon as possible. That's always a nice thing to get him, involved in the team, get used to this environment because that's ultimately where he's going to be from here in. You imagine he's going to be in most squads moving forwards. So that's nice, and I think in the future he's going to have a big role for Portugal if his form for Porto is anything to go by. But yeah, it's difficult to get too excited because you know that he's only included because Ruben Neves isn't there. I'm kind of surprised that he called up Vitinha anyway, to be honest, and not a like-for-like replacement for Ruben Neves. So that's something.
Does that tell you maybe that the pairing of, barring injury here, the pairing of Pep and José Fonte is definitely going to happen, and you don't need even though you did call a third defensive midfielder already, but I guess not calling one as a replacement for Ruben Neves, that's probably solidifying the Pep José Fonte center back pairing likely on Thursday and hopefully on the 29th as well.
That's true. That's true, actually. Yeah, because Danilo, we thought, well, you've included him because he can serve both defensive midfield and centre back. And then when you lose a defensive midfielder, you've kind of nullified his potential, really, to play as the centre back because he's probably going to be played as the defensive midfielder. You would have thought, looking at the squad, he's going to be the defensive central player there. So I think that's true. And I think it was always the plan, wasn't it, to play Pep and Font, I imagine. Danilo's just playing that role as potential fourth choice, really. I think even Inácio, don't you think, would be ahead of Danilo Pereira in the pecking order?
I would have hoped so, but again, this is also a Fernando Santos that he likes who he likes, and he's very comfortable with those he knows. And even though it's you would think that Inácio would. And who's Alex? Who's to say he doesn't have Inácio and Pep play in the middle? I mean,
True.
I would be surprised by it, but
I would be surprised. But yeah,
but I mean, he didn't have to take Vitinha. Yeah, Vitinha was not in his original roster, but I don't think he had to take Vitinha unless he thinks it's just it looks better for him on the surface because. I don't know. I've tried to figure out how to get into Fernando Santos' head, and it's an act that I get tired of trying to figure out just because some of
He
the
does it on
things that
purpose, yeah.
it's, oh my God, yeah, it's just, it's not great. But I mean, I think he doesn't have Danilo play center back, and I don't think I just want to I wouldn't shut the door of having Vitinha still make some sort of contribution, but it doesn't. History doesn't say that he's going to, simply based off of leaving Pot on the bench and not playing him a minute in the Euros last year.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, what I would say is if Portugal find themselves 1-0 down to Turkey, let's say, with
Oh
15
God,
minutes to go,
that just
and you're
I'm already sad. Damn
and
it,
you're looking at
Alex!
your bench. We've got to get used to it. It could happen. You never know.
Oh my God.
And you're looking at the bench, and you don't want to ruin the balance completely. You don't want to just throw on all your attacking players and go gung ho. You're looking at it for a central midfielder that can impact the game. You look at the options in terms of central midfielders. Vitinha's the one, isn't he? Because I would like to assume that Mateus Nunes is going to start. He offers something a bit like Renato Sanchez, I think, with the directness, explosiveness. Hopefully, he's going to start. If you're looking for someone else to bring on, you're not going to bring on João Martinho, are you? You're not going to bring on William Carvalho. You wouldn't have thought. Well, then again, it's Fernando Santos, but probably not.
Yeah, João Martinho is probably going to start.
That's true. Yeah, which is all right. But you look at the bench and you go, Vitinha's probably the man. Suddenly, he's become invaluable because he's the option now that you want to use. That he's going to add that attacking flair from the middle of the pitch. So, in that sense, maybe he's still going to be used. But I think the only way we would see him is if Portugal are losing. So let's hope we don't see him and we're winning 3-0, and then he brings on William Carvalho and shuts up the shop.
There it is. We're talking with Alex Gonçalves of TugaScout.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at ALJEEVES, and you can follow his Tuga Scout account, easy for me to say, on Twitter as well, at Tuga Scout PT. We are reviewing the roster and trying to get a semblance of a preview for Thursday. I'll probably not get the nuts and bolts, other than we'll try to get a prediction from you, Alex, on who you think may be in the starting 11 for Thursday. But could you see a scenario? I love playing hypothetical with our guests sometimes, but I just like to get other people's opinions here. But could you see a scenario where Portugal makes the World Cup and Fernando Santos is not the manager of that World Cup team?
No.
I don't think so either.
No. I mean, of course it's possible, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say absolutely not. But
by the way, that was option C that I didn't put on the poll because I knew that it would probably go 95% in that way.
That's true. Yeah. No, surely, yeah. And I think the fact that they've stuck by him now is because they're backing him to qualify. Why would you back him to this point just to sack him before the World Cup? The only way is if he decides to leave. That's the only way. I can't see him doing that. He's a proud man, and rightfully so. He's done incredible things as a manager. So I just cannot see him walking away from the opportunity to lead his country with the ultimate job, isn't it? To lead your country to the World Cup final, So I cannot see that at all, even if that's what everybody wants.
Yeah, I would. I guess the logical side in my brain says that obviously that's not going to happen if we are fortunate enough to get by Turkey and by either Italy or North Macedonia on the 29th. With that said, in terms of, we talked about how a new manager into a playoff scenario would be very difficult on that manager. You then have, I guess, the flip side on by making the World Cup and then getting rid of Santos is you then have the Nations League, which, call it whatever you want, but those are 6 guaranteed games in, I believe, June and July and maybe September. I'm not sure. I don't have the schedule in front of me. But you could, you can use the Nations League like some teams did the first go around, where it was, Ronaldo maybe doesn't have to play in the Nations League. You could rest him and have some players try to get a little bit of run for up front. you could have, these younger center backs trying to get some time together. You don't need to play Pep if you want to play him and save him for the World Cup. You could tinker with, the formation. You could finally maybe try that 3-4-3 with the abundance of wingbacks that we always seem to talk about, but in this go around are not at our disposal because of injury and yellow cards. So I, for one, it would be, if you look at it, he got us to the World Cup. He said, right after, a few days after the Serbia match, he said that he would leave. No one would have to fire him if they don't make the World Cup. Well, that's a low bar.
No, exactly.
That's a low bar. So if I don't want someone with the talent that this national team has, I don't want someone like that with that low of a bar leading us or attempting to lead us into the World Cup. Now, I'll thank him for getting us there if the team gets there, but I would be very open to allowing Fernando Santos to go if we made the World Cup, relieving him of his duties, and then having someone like a Paulo Fonseca or an André Villas-Boas start implementing his system for 3-4 months before the Nations League, and the players already know what to expect coming into this summer's tournament. And then you start building that camaraderie with coach and staff for a huge tournament in November, the World Cup. So I guess I'm option C, get us there and then say goodbye and just watch it from home. That's where I'm at right now.
It's a great point that you make with the fact that you do have a big load of preparatory matches, for the World Cup. So it is very different than between the Serbia match and this one, where there was nothing. It was just straight into it. So logically, it makes much more sense to do it between the playoffs and the World Cup. I just think that they've stuck by him until now. I can't see it happening, but I do agree with your logic that it's very feasible because of the however 6-8 matches with the friendlies, as well. So yeah, there would be enough time for the turnover. I also, I do wonder if all of our centre backs were available. If Ruben Dias was there, if João Cancelo was available from the first match, Nelson Semedo was there, if he would have gone with the back three. I do wonder. It would have been interesting to see if he would have. He would have tried it, because it would be fascinating.
I think about that too, and it was something that that I had discussed with Tom after the Serbia match. Is Fernando Santos, and you said it during this interview. He's a very proud man, stubborn probably to a fault. He's given a lot of players their first caps, so it's not like he's playing 37-year-olds all over the field. But you can't teach a dog new tricks, is a saying, but he also can be smart enough and know that if I don't know how to correctly implement a system, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't try to get someone who can help me. He's not the only coach there, Alex. You could have a guy who, a tactic guru who is well versed in the 3-4-3 in the wingback system. That the majority, I would say, a loud portion of this fan base has been dying to see, given the amount of talent and the type of talent that this national team has. And if he's too proud to bring in someone that can assist him in just familiarizing himself with that system, to be like, all right, I haven't done it this way. Show me why this may work with this team. And again, as I told Tom, I don't know that he hasn't done that. But it just seems... Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, and also a big concern is not only just implementing a system like that, but I think he's openly admitted, I think he has, that he's not sure how to play against a team that plays with a back three. So it's not just
look at the Germany game.
Exactly this, and so that's a big concern, because who knows? Italy could easily play with a back three. There's a very Italian system. They could easily play with the back three, and then suddenly you're like, this is going to be a grueling test, because he does have a history, it seems, of struggling not only to implement it, which is fine. He has his system, but if you don't know how to counteract it, then there's a serious flaw in your managerial ability that you do have to fix. Whether that be, as you say, bringing another coach in to help you try and counteract that. That's the bigger concern. Like, it would be fun to see that Portugal play with the back three. I think it's good. The team's got such a good composition to be able to pull that off successfully. But it's the problem playing against the back three. That's going to be the reason probably that Portugal really struggle if they want to win the World Cup. And that's a long way away right now. But if they want to win the World Cup, they have to fix that hugely, because you've got Belgium that play that system. You've got a lot of top teams that will play that system against you, particularly when you know the manager cannot seem to deal with that formation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, that is for sure. We're talking with Alex Gonçalves here on episode number 56 as we look back at the announcement of the roster. If you are listening to this podcast and you have not heard, because this podcast will be released on Monday the 20th. Check that, Monday the 21st. What day is it today? It is Sunday, March 20th, so tomorrow would be Monday, March 21st. All right, so we will be releasing 55 and 56 here as we, it's playoff week, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode here, and a match probably as important to this federation and to this fan base as there's been probably since 2016. That is my opinion here. But let's get your thought here, Alex, as we try to finish up here. Game on Thursday, they play Turkey. We know who is not available. We know that João Cancelo out due to yellow cards. Ruben Dias obviously not in the middle due to injury. Fernando Santos is out due to injury. We just learned that Ruben Neves is out due to injury. If you were to pick a starting 11 for a likely starting 11 for Fernando Santos to use against Turkey, who do you think that would be?
So likely as in not my choice, his choice. What I think he will choose.
What you think he will do?
Patricio, of course, in goal. Font and Pep, I think he's going with for sure back as the partnership at the back. I think he'll go with Dalot. It's close though. And then probably Guerreiro. I think the experience maybe. And then Danilo. I really hope Matheus Nunes, and I'm going to say it, I really think he should start. I'm sure he will start. Do you play Bruno Fernandes as well?
You've got to figure out how to get him on the field.
I don't know. I mean,
it's not like he's not blowing people away at United like he has been in the past, but I guess that's another strike against Fernando Santos in my book, is like, how do you not figure out how to get someone like Bruno Fernandes, get the best out of him? How do you get a player like an André Silva who scored 30 goals in the Bundesliga last year? How to get him in, and sometimes it's just the hand you're dealt, and maybe the roster just doesn't mesh well given who's on it, because it's not like a club team where you could just get someone out and that's it. But you got to figure out a way to get Bruno Fernandes in there. That's just my opinion. I just don't know how.
I mean, no,
that's why I'm not the coach either.
If I were the coach, I'm not sure I would play him, because I would like to see Bernardo Silva moved into the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot play both. I don't think you can play a midfield of Danilo Pereira, Bernardo Silva, and Bruno Fernandes. So I would, if it were up to me, I'd play Danilo, Matheus Nunes, and Bernardo Silva in the middle, which would then give you the opportunity to play a nice, more fluid, maybe front three, in addition to Bernardo just behind, of like João Felix, Diogo Jota, Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, because there are going to be some big stars that miss out. It's a fact, because the squad is so good. And I don't think that Bruno Fernandes should be a guaranteed starter, because there's quality there. I think he'll start João Martinho. Having said all that, I think he'll start João Martinho as the third central midfielder. Which, listen, it adds composure in the middle.
No, it does. It does. It's just such a boring decision if it is. You got me excited about Matheus Nunes playing, a Renato Santos role, perhaps. There's stability in a guy like João Moutinho, obviously, but I also think that can be sometimes a crutch, simply because of his age, more so than what he gives to the to the squad, because if you're looking at 2016, I mean, the back four could be, as we mentioned, the same back four that played. And then you throw in, I mean, obviously we're going to put Ronaldo in because he is who he is. But, João Moutinho contributing again, William Carvalho contributing again, possibly Danilo contributing. It's like you want that look, you want that fresh look to somehow get us there, maybe. But you also have to deal with the reality that he could possibly play João Moutinho in the middle with Danilo and Bernard Silva. Not the worst thing in the world, but I think you'd get a lot of eyes rolling, and it's like, oh, this again.
No,
What year
that's true.
is this? But it's no knock on you. Obviously, we're trying to figure out what Fernando Santos will do. So that's probably why I'm getting a little bit like, I'm like, come on, man, Fernando Santos. But it's like, well, why am I surprised? Why am I getting all worked up for something that does not surprise me whatsoever?
It's a good point. I mean, again, though, as we said, it's all about finding the balance, and he's struggled with that. He has struggled to find that balance. He's gone too defensive. He's got to be a little bit more expansive. But I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, put Danilo, put Bernardo, put Bruno Fernandes in midfield, and then you can have João Felix, Diogo Jota, Cristiano Ronaldo up front. And it's like, that sounds so fun. It sounds like it'll be
if we're playing FIFA, it's amazing.
Now is not the time to be messing around. So I mean, if he starts with Danilo, Mateus Nunes, João Moutinho, I say, listen, if it gets the job done, then so be it. And then you've always got the option, if it doesn't go well, you take off João Moutinho, you bring on Bruno Fernandes at that moment, and then you change the game. Maybe that's better than starting with Bruno Fernandes. You go 1-0 up, and then you bring on João Moutinho to try and see out the game. So that's another way you could look at it,
Finally, Alex, how much pressure do you think is on this group as a collective, from manager to player, with everything that's on the line here? Because I know Italy is the reigning European champions, so there's pressure on them too. You think just because of the history of Turkey and North Macedonia in terms of big tournaments, Turkey's had a bit of a run here and there over the last 20 years, and North Macedonia just starting to find their footing in international football. But two giants like Italy and Portugal, obviously there's there could be a scenario, Alex, where it's not only Portugal that's not going to the World Cup. It could be we could see a Turkey North Macedonia final here, and that would be bananas. But in terms of Portugal, the federation, Fernando Santos, Cristiano Ronaldo, and the players, how much pressure do you think is on this group playing at home to get this federation and get this national team to the World Cup in Qatar?
I would say if they failed, it would be the best team, the best squad to ever miss out on a World Cup, probably in history. I mean, that's maybe debatable. Certainly in the top three in terms of pure talent that is in that squad. That is a massive pressure in itself. Just knowing that you are too good to fail. That is going to add a ton of pressure. Then you've got the fact that, this is a country that is absolutely football mad. You've got the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo is probably playing his last tournament. You're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your idol, the guy that you have idolized forever. That is massive. I would say that Italy are under almost as much pressure because, although I guess expectations not as high because it's not the best Italian team they've ever had. The fact they won the Euros was an upset. I don't think anyone really saw them as favourites going into that tournament. But they missed the last World Cup. To miss 2 World Cups in a row is devastating for a country like Italy. It won't sting as much, I guess, because they won the Euros quite recently, but that would be huge. So this is, one way or another, there's going to be at least one team, one nation that is truly devastated because of Italy. This will be 2 years in a row. Portugal, this is their best team probably ever, and they've somehow messed it up. That just makes it all the more exciting for a neutral, but it's unbearable for us, that's for sure.
That is for sure. My thanks to Alex Gonçalves here on episode number 56 of the Seleção podcast. Alex, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your thoughts on the roster and what to look for here, and what we hope is to, I guess let's one more thing. Prediction. Do we make the World Cup?
Yes. No, we
like
make
it.
the World Cup.
Is that
I
with your
think I'm
heart, with your head, or with both?
probably the heart, but it was the first thing that came to mind. So I just think
Sure.
we're too good. We're too good. It's the team. Look, what I will say, and I would say Italy have the best international manager in the world. I think he's the best manager of a national team currently, probably by a distance. He's
Okay.
remarkable, Mancini. But Portugal have the superior players. They have the game changers. If Fernando Santos doesn't do something ludicrous, they should have enough talent to do it themselves almost. They also have home advantage. So I think just based on that, Portugal should have enough. As that's probably the heart speaking, but that's just my gut feeling right now. But when the kickoff goes, if it is an Italy-Portugal final, all the confidence is gone, just like that. So
Well, wait. Say it
ask me
again.
then. If it is a Portugal-Italy final, all that confidence goes immediately. So if you ask me in a week's time, it's a different answer completely. So
I gotcha. Our thanks again to Alex Gonçalves here of tugascout.pt, or excuse me, Tugascout PT on Twitter, tugascout.com on the web. You can follow Alex and make sure you give him a tweet here and follow him. Let him know that he did a wonderful job again in our preview episode of the playoff with Turkey. Real quick, and we will let Alex go here. So, Alex, I'm just finishing up the episode. So please bear with me as I politely remove you off our YouTube stream. But my thanks again to you, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care, bud. That will do it for our episode here, episode number 56. So let's give you a bit of a breakdown of what could happen, or in terms of what we try to do here on the pod, depending on how everything goes. So if Portugal do make it to the 29th, we will have obviously a review of the Turkey match, and then we'll preview the final, whether it's against Italy or North Macedonia. If Portugal does not make the final, we will have some sort of crisis intervention episode of this podcast for sure, and we'll try to get as many of you involved in that as possible. But there will be some there will be an episode after the Turkey match, no matter what. Hopefully, it's a preview of the final, and then if we have that preview, we will have a review of that final. Hopefully a positive one, or we'll have that crisis moment, a few days after maybe the first one could have been. So all that to say is just keep it tuned in to the Seleção podcast. Follow guys like Alex Gonçalves on Twitter. He does a great job with his opinions and with his work. I didn't even, Alex, I'm going to bring you back on. Hold on one second, Alex. There he is. Alex, you've been doing a bang up job on Portugal.net. You had started a series on Wolves. I would say just about one or two players that are Portuguese on that squad. I think maybe less than that.
There's
Maybe
just the
I don't
one
know.
now because Neves is gone. So I see what.
See, yeah,
I see what you mean. But
it's my American humor that is no good almost all the time. But yeah, you've been doing a series with Portugal.net, and I know that you've done a few of your works already there. And how did that come about? And what do we look forward to for that series coming in the future?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. So I've written a couple of pieces already, looking at, of course, José Sá, who is the sensation this season, and also looking at Wolves' credentials for, at the time, it was a top 4 place. I guess that was a little bit ambitious in hindsight, but looking forward, I'm looking at writing a piece about João Moutinho, because there were a few doubters about him last season. People were suggesting, he's getting on a bit. He's maybe not the player he once was, and this season he's come back firing. He's been great for them in that partnership with Neves. So I think we've got to show him a bit of love, I think, in one of these articles coming up. Nice,
good man. And yeah, make sure you look for that on the social media accounts of both Alex Tugascout and also Tom Kundert's Portugal.net Portugal.net. Follow Tom there at Portugal1. So that will do it for episode number 56 of the Seleção podcast. I have been your host, Danny Pinto. Remember to follow the podcast on Twitter at selecaopod, facebook.com/selecaopod. Follow us on Instagram at selecaopod, and you can email the show selecaopod@gmail.com. Remember, we are on YouTube. The last couple episodes have been on YouTube. If you haven't yet subscribed to it, please do. Subscribe to us on all of your podcasting platforms as well, and make sure you bookmark our website, selecaopod.com. Again, my name has been Danny Pinto for Alex Gonçalves of tugascout.com. We have been providing you episode number 56 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. And as always, Força Portugal!